Today we'll be talking about a psycho-thriller animated movie about a pop star turned actress and the surprising revelations, violence, and crimes throughout her career change. Spoilers ahead. The film is opened by a live performance from a group called Powertrons, a group of fighters who swear to uphold peace as they are watched by a large crowd and media recorders. The scene shifts to a couple of children playing and running, saying that the show was so cheap. On the other hand, a group of three men talk about a rumor of Mima substituting for another singer named Ray in a certain performance. Backstage preparations are ongoing for another performance by Mima's girl group called Cham. The scene then cuts to a clock, signaling that it is time for their performance. Mima's image on a train's window is juxtaposed on the city skyline of skyscrapers. This is in an alternate sequence with the group Cham's lively pop performance of a song about love. Men in the audience wildly cheered for them. Another alternate scene shows Mima while picking things in a grocery store. The audience starts chanting her name. In a closed-door meeting, Mima and her manager, Rumi, discussed with an agent who asserts that she should just be an actress, but Rumi believes she can do both acting and singing. The scene goes back to the group's performance, with the man in the audience holding his left palm out, making it seem as if Mima is dancing on the palm of his hand, from his perspective. The performance ends and the audience applauds. Before the group starts their next performance, they were supposed to make an announcement about Mima leaving the group, but before that happens, a group of men began beating the man's face as he approaches them. Meanwhile, the audience begins throwing bottles and cans at the group, telling them to go home. Mima starts crying on stage, telling them that she just wanted to have a good time with all of them. A guy from the group, who caused the commotion, almost threw his can, aiming at the stage, but the man from earlier kept him from doing so. The group finally gets to announce that a member will be graduating from Cham, letting her leave the group to focus on being a renowned actress. The audience was shocked, some were even disappointed. Mima says her speech of gratitude. Then the show continues with her last song. This is followed by glimpses of mundane moments of Mima's life outside of being an idol. On a scene where reporters were around and flocking Mima, she took a pink envelope with a heart embellishment as she heard someone scream in the background, "I'm always looking at Mima's room." She was taken aback by this comment. As Mima closes the door of her apartment, various images from her home are featured. News about the earthquake is playing on the television in the background while she lays on her bed. She reads the fan-made letters she has received. The pink envelope letter says, "I'm always looking at Mima's room. I've put up a link to Mima's room." She thinks about these words for a moment when the phone starts to ring and she begins speaking with her friend. In the middle of their conversation, she tells her friend to wait and takes another call on the line. However, at the other end, all she could hear was breathing, so she goes back on the line with her friend. As she prepares her bath, Mima receives a fax containing a poster filled with the word traitor all over it. On a production set, Mima consults with her manager about the pink envelope letter, to which the manager explains that Mima's room is the title of the website they were setting up. As they watch the scene start from behind the scenes, Mima praises the actress, who acts at the set just before she's called to enter the scene at the set. Her soul line asks, "Who are you?" but she becomes increasingly anxious just before the scene rolls. Shortly after this, she receives more fan mail, including another one of the pink letters. The producer opens a letter which immediately explodes in his hands, leaving him lying on the floor. What was left of the letter reads as a warning: "The next one will be real." Mima was perplexed by what just happened. After this incident, Rumi, her manager, teaches her how to use the internet, so they access the link to Mima's room. The website contains information about Mima's daily life, even the lists of which she had bought from the grocery store. A voice recording of her mumbling "Who are you?" from the production set earlier was also put up in the website, all of which startled Mima. As Mima takes her daily commute to the train, she panics and runs out of the station as she remembers the details of the website. She ignores the men who greet her on the street before taking the elevator. There she gets a glimpse of the creepy man as the elevator door closes. Later, Mima gets offered a new role, which included rape scenes. Her manager and agent hesitated, but she accepted the offer. While she was on the train, her reflection had told her to refuse the role. On the production set, they start filming the scene. In the film, she dances on stage in the club and the men gang up on her. The creepy man observes all this from behind the scenes. After work, Mima comes home to find that all her pet fishes are already dead floating in the aquarium. She throws a fit, raging and saying that she didn't want to do the rape scene, but she didn't want to trouble the people who helped her get that far. Her reflection of pop star girl version of her talks back, spiteful of her for her decisions. Meanwhile, we are shown the man from earlier as he types behind the Mima Room's website, implying that he's the one who manages its contents. Several interviews ask her about her debut as an actress. She says that that is what she really wanted to be, rather than to be a pop star. As she reads the updates on the website, another episode of her pop star alter ego shows on the screen and judges her. Her pop star alter ego jumped out the window and she followed it, crying and watching as it vanished. A little while later, the scriptwriter of the film is seen about to ride the elevator. As the doors open, he notices a radio inside playing a groovy jam hit song. It cuts into the next scene, and as the elevator doors open, the scriptwriter is found dead, covered in blood with his eyes gouged out. Mima is being driven somewhere by her manager Rumi when she glances out the window. As the car passes by beside theirs going in the opposite direction, her pop star alter ego shows up again, mouthing the words "serves you right." Elsewhere inside a room, Mima's former groupmates Rei and Yukiko gossip about her showing her body. Rumi cuts off their conversation as she opens the door and calls them to prepare for a performance. The following scene, Mima gets photographed in sexy clothes before being photographed naked. This juxtaposes a performance of Cham with the remaining two members while the ghost of her pop star alter ego dances with them. Mima's sexy photos then get published and the man from earlier keeps managing the website. Mima and her agent pay a visit to the set of Rain Yukiko's talk show where she sees her illusion to imposter once again. She runs after her before even getting to greet her former co-stars. Even after falling down a flight of stairs, she continues to chase them. Poster under the rain outside. As she runs across the pedestrian lane, a truck approaches. Behind the wheel she sees the creepy man from earlier and she wakes up from her horrible dream. In the following scenes, we see Mima's mental state slowly start to deteriorate. Mima starts confusing her lines with her conversational language. She gets entrenched while acting on a scene, so they always have to reshoot. Even her normal waking hours feel like part of a dream sequence to her. While speaking with her former manager Rico, she gets wounded by the cup she was holding. Blood trickles down her hands as she expresses her confusion about reality. In a state of psychosis, Mima kills the photographer who took her nude photos, and she once again wakes up from a dream. Shortly after, she receives a phone call about the news of the photographer's death. She remains clueless about everything, but as she opens her closet, bloodied clothes fall out. She opened the door out of her apartment, only to be met with reporters asking her opinion about the murders. While on set, she acts as if she had just killed someone. As the film rules, she breathes heavily and faints, and she wakes up to her messy room. The scene transitions into a conversation with her co-actress acting as a psychiatrist, responding to the questions and saying that she's an actress. She then diagnosed her with dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality syndrome. They finished filming the movie and wrap up as the world continues to spin rapidly around Mima. There is no way illusions can come to life. "You should stop dreaming so," her co-actress tells her when they bump into each other while walking on the building's hallway. As she leaves, she sees her stalker walking towards her, before he hits her in the face, causing her to black out. Outside, her manager Rumi and her agent wait for her. Back inside the building's hallway, Mima is being attacked by the stalker with the knife. He points the knife at her as he ripped her clothes, accusing her of being the fake Mima. He confesses that he writes the content of the website because the real Mima emails him. He calls himself me-mania.as. They struggle. Mima learns that he was the one who committed the murders. Mima runs away and gets trapped in the building with the stalker as he chases and tries to stab her. As she has been cornered with her feet tied up, she gets a hold of a hammer and whips it at the man's head. She breathes heavily while the man lies across from her, unmoving. She wakes up in a daze as the audience applauds in front of her. Her manager Rumi finally found her inside the building, leaning against the wall. They return to where the man lied down only to find that he wasn't there. Rumi asks her if she was sure she was not dreaming. She was told by Rumi that she would be taken back to her room before Mima falls asleep in the car as they go to home. There she calls her agent. Unfortunately, by that time he had already been murdered. As she puts the phone down, she notices the tiny details about her room. Her champ poster was put up again. Her fishes were alive again. She looks out the window and finally realizes that that wasn't her room. Rumi, dressed as Mima the pop star, faces her. She mimics her actions as a pop idol. Rumi, in an alternating image with Mima's alter ego, attacks Mima with a pointed weapon. Mima gets stabbed in the chest and crawls out of the window, stepping onto the railing. She struggles while Rumi attacks her, and by this time she was hanging on the railing with both her hands. Rumi keeps attacking her until she finally lets go. When she does, she lands on the opposite building's lower floor and Rumi follows her. The chase continues even after Rumi accidentally drops her weapon. She takes an umbrella to attack Mima and the two fall down on the street. Mima tried screaming for help, but Rumi catches up to her and stabs her with an umbrella. As Rumi attempts to stab her again, she hits the mirrored window, which shatters. She then begins to hold Mima by the neck across the wall, to which Mima retaliates by ripping Rumi's wig, causing her to snap out of it, fall into the shattered mirror and get stabbed by the shards. This does not seem to faze her as Rumi dances around with her wand before sitting dramatically on the street. As a truck with bright lights approaches her, she stands up, smiles, and puts up her hands as if she was thanking and applauding the audience. But just before she is hit, Mima pushes Rumi to save her and the two roll down the street. The truck driver stepped down to see them and called an ambulance. While lying down, she watches the sky as it brightens. In the hospital, Rumi is very pleased with the flowers that she received. Mima and a doctor watch her from behind the window. By the end of the movie, Mima leaves the hospital. There's a couple of nurses gossiping about how she is just a look-alike. She gets in her car and looks up at the car's rear-view mirror as she peeks and takes off her seats, confidently saying the words "no"